Amen. This Sabbath, I'm presenting a message about trusting in the Lord. I've entitled it, Held in His Mighty Hands. Trusting in the Lord with all our heart. The familiar and even famous passage from Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. Even those who are unchurched have familiarity with it. A call to confide in the Lord fully. This is a word from Solomon, as addressed to his son, words of wisdom. And he says, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct your paths. Again, the familiarity of it is a reminder, certainly. But I'd like to use it as a springboard of that remembrance, that trusting in God may be understood, but the reality of trusting with all our heart is something we need to work at. Very often we have a sense that we do trust him with all of our heart until tribulation happens. Until an issue that causes us to fear or to grow anxious and to lose peace and to address God with anguish and with a question as to his deliverance or his ability to save, reflecting on some of the words in our Psalms. But trusting the Lord with all of our heart requires that we not lean on our own understanding. Everyone has understanding. It may be riddled with ignorance. It certainly is not omniscient like God's understanding. But to understand or to realize that we don't have to lean upon it when we trust God fully. That our ways are known to the Lord, all of them. Our inclinations, the results of our thinking, every aspect of our being, of our existence, is known by this one that we're to trust. If we're looking at this just logically, it makes sense that you trust the one who knows everything about you, because he will direct your path. There's something else. Verses 7 and 8 of the same proverb that ties in with what we just read in 5 and 6, when he says, do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and depart from evil. It will be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. To consider that we're not to lean on our own understanding connects with not being wise in our own eyes. That to fear the Lord and depart from evil is also connected. That is part of our trusting in the Lord with all of our heart. That we're not leaning on our own wisdom, that we fear the Lord and we would reject evil. That we would have no part with that which the Lord identifies as evil. Out of fear of God. And we will experience a type of health and a type of strength. We will experience the blessings of God in abundance. Now consider, that there are those who fear God, who walk in his ways, whose body is not fully healthy. They're dealing with ailments, they're dealing with issues in this life through age, through result of accidents and different things going on in their life. And someone might point to that, to those situations and to those people and say, well, God is not faithful there. It would be wrong to consider that they did something wrong. That God is looking for someone who's doing this perfectly. As I remind you that we are in his mighty hand. And to consider that it is he who is holding us. I've shared many years ago a story by Pastor Tony Evans about a time that he and his daughter, he and his family were visiting Hawaii. And in this particular place where they were able to go to the shore, and the view was spectacular, but to get down closer to the water, it was some rather treacherous, almost dangerous looking path through some rocks. And he told his daughter, "Hold my hand, and I'll guide you down." And his daughter looks up at her dad and says, "Daddy, you hold my hand in case I slip." And from that, he brought the illustration that we have a sense of holding God's hand. And if we do it right, we're going to hold on. But if we don't, we could slip. And to understand that it is God who holds us. I would rather that it be the Lord who held me, rather than me trying to, in some way, affect that perfection of holding on to him, that I wouldn't go astray. The reality is that I can confide fully in him because he holds me. He holds us. Reflecting on Proverbs 9, verses 10 through 12, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. For by me your days will be multiplied, and years of life will be added to you. If you are wise for yourself, and if you scoff, you will bear it alone. The first sentence of this passage, verse 10, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. The Proverbs that we read earlier about not being wise in your own eyes, about fearing the Lord, this is talking about, it's connected with wisdom. Fearing God is where wisdom begins. That is wise. The knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. I'd rather seek his understanding because it is stable. And then the other, verse 11 and 12, for by me your days will be multiplied. This is actually as a quote, quoting wisdom. By me your days will be multiplied, and years of life will be added to you. If you are wise for yourself. And if you scoff, in other words, if you scoff at wisdom, you will bear it alone. The consequences will be known. Bringing us to James chapter 1, verse 5, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. I hope you've had the experience of asking wisdom from the Lord. Perhaps it was an issue. Perhaps it was a specific situation that you were in, that you were wanting the wisdom of the Lord. And I certainly encourage that, and I believe the Word encourages that as well. But consider that when you're trusting God with all your heart, and you're leaning not on your understanding, on your wisdom, but you're drawing from His wisdom for Him directing your path. It is interesting that here in the New Covenant, we find the abundance of wisdom by asking for it. The Lord will give it in abundance. He'll give it liberally, without reproach. What does that mean? I believe he's talking about those who request it, and God is sort of, well, you've got this messed up about you, so no, you're not going to get it. Without reproach. It is God's desire that we walk in His wisdom. The promise is you will receive it. But it's important that we understand that receiving wisdom abundantly is from one who fears the Lord. In James 1, 6 through 8, but let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for he who doubts is like a wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For let not that man suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. Now, it may seem that this sort of negates that God is generous with the giving of wisdom. And if there's any problem in our life that's going to be denied, well, this is not talking about the issues that you're facing. This is talking about your faith. This is talking about your submission to God. The one who lacks, even when he's asking. The one who says, I desire this from you, God, but I have doubts that you're going to give it to me. James very pointedly, as he is fond of doing in this letter, he says that you will not receive, because such a one who doubts is double-minded. You're unstable. I find it very, even a bit disturbing that James does not say, you are unstable in that which you ask. But he says, you are unstable. That one is unstable in all his ways. Wow. To trust in the Lord with all your heart is a wonderful place to be, but to not trust God, to not believe, to have doubts even in your faith, is to walk in instability. Now, it isn't God's purpose that you be there, because His call is to trust Him. His call is to confide in Him. But you know that His grace is given even in abundance in this. You recall the man who requested of Jesus for the healing of his son, that his disciples had tried to cast out this demon that was causing this tremendous ailment and injury to his son. And Jesus looked at this man, the father, and said, do you believe? And you recall what that father said. He said, I do. And I believe there was a pause, And then he spoke honestly with the Lord, and he said, Lord, help me in my unbelief. The Lord did help him. The Lord didn't say, well, you only believe halfway or 3/4 of the way, so your son is only going to receive 3/4 of a healing. No. He took even that which was a partial belief because the man submitted to him, because there was a surrender in this, and spoke honestly before God. And he says, I will finish. I will complete your broken faith. To fear the Lord draws us to him. I know that the term fear of the Lord, for those who are a bit ignorant about it, they believe that it means that we run from God, that we would hide regarding his presence like Adam and Eve after their sin. But the fear of the Lord draws us to him. It causes us to desire him. The fear of the Lord would have us to say, what would you have, O God? This is my understanding, but what is your thought? What is your wisdom on this? The fear of the Lord would cause us to say, Father, I want to walk in your wisdom. I desire it, Father. I need it. And Lord, you know my heart. You know some of the doubts that have been swimming around in my soul. Help me, Lord, in this, that I would not be denied your wisdom and to walk in your care fully. Trusting in God with all of our heart means in every area of our life. Not just the things that you bring, before your devotion. Not just that which you are discussing and dealing with regarding your family or your Christian friends, but every area. It is natural. It should be natural that you bring everything to God. And with all of your thinking about your life, with all of your thoughts, that you surrender to God. Trusting in God with all your heart is how God desires to deal with us as a father. That we experience fully his love and his discipline, his care, his direction. Our response to him needs to be out of trust, fully, in every area. God, I'm not sure what's happening in the political scene in our country. But that's not something I can discuss with you because it's so divisive. That's nonsense. We go to him in all things. Father, these social issues in our country are scary. And I don't know what to think about them. Direct my thoughts. Direct my intentions, oh God. Even direct my words. May the wisdom of the Lord be directed given to us by the fear of the Lord. May we walk in wisdom as we learn to trust in God with all of our heart, because we are in fact held by his mighty hand. The recognition that this is your place, this is the reality for you, is to consider that he has always been faithful. that he will always have you. May you rest in this. May you also consider that which he asks of you to do, it may be frightening, but you're safe. The tribulations in life will come, as Jesus says, that you, in this life, you will have tribulation. But you're safe. Confide in him. Trust in him. Do not be dismayed. Do not be afraid. Every situation, every area, the physical, the emotional, the mental, the relational, God has it. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Amen.
Amen.